Hello class, we are in lesson 9 of unit 7. Okay, so in class we will have covered this very important detail here. You can see that when we have an inequality like h is bigger or greater than 14, okay, we can have an idea about what h must be. So a solution to an inequality is a value of the variable that makes the inequality true. Now, this is a little bit different than equations just because there's going to be more than one solution, right? So anything that is bigger than 14 would be a solution. 17 would be a solution, okay? 17 would make the inequality true. 10 would not be a solution. 10 is not bigger than 14. So it's important to keep that in mind. This is also in the lesson summary. All right, in our activity for this lesson, we have amusement park rides, and they have these height requirements. All right, so Priya is walking up to the different rides, and she sees the signs that say to ride the high bounce, you must be between 55 and 72 inches tall. To ride the Climathon, you must be under 60 inches tall. To ride the Twirlo coaster, you must be 58 inches minimum. So we're going to write an inequality for each of the three height requirements. We're going to use height as the variable for the unknown height. And then we're going to represent each height requirement on a number line. All right, so here we go. All right, so for the high bounce, you must be between 55 and 72. Okay, so we don't have any numbers on here, so what we can do, we can keep this really simple. We can just go ahead and call one of these 55, and let's make this a little bit smaller. And then we can call another one 72. We'll go down here. We won't even worry about anything else because here's what we do need to know about. We do need to know that it's between these two. So we need to show that we're going to be between these two. So what I'm going to do, we want to think and see, okay, if it's between 55 and 72, does that include 55? And does it include 72? That's kind of up for debate. I can understand if you think that it would not include 55 and 72, but I tend to think it will. So I'm going to go ahead and put a point at 55, and I'm going to put a point at 72, and between those two, we're talking about going here, in between them. Okay, so you can see the height needs to be somewhere in here. If you are more than 72 inches tall, you're too tall. But if you're less than 55 inches, you are not tall enough. Okay, so for the Climathon, you need to be under 60 inches. So under 60 inches, so 60 is the only dimension we have here. Let's just go ahead and put 60. It's kind of random where I'm choosing it here. It's not a big deal. So 60 is here. And so if it needs to be under, that means less than. So we need to go ahead and say, I'm going to circle 60, but I'm not going to color it in because 60 would be too tall. You can't be 60. You have to be under 60 or less than 60. So I'm going to put a mark at 60 with this empty circle, but I'm just going to go this way with it. And I'm just going to draw an arrow showing you that anything under 60 is okay for the Climathon. All right, so that's a lot of possibilities. For the Twirlo coaster, 58 inches is the minimum. Okay, so we can go ahead and add in 58. Doesn't really matter where you add it in. Not a big deal for now. We just want to have it showing up here. There's 58. It needs to be that much minimum. So that means that it can be 58 inches. And it can also, so I'm going to color in a solid circle of 58, but it can also be more than 58. It can be going this way. You can be more than 58 inches and ride. You just can't be less than 58. Okay, and so with that, I forgot to do the inequalities. So what we can do is we can go ahead and write the inequalities using our graphs. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that. Most of you are probably going to write the inequality first and then do the graph. Okay, so here's what we know. We know that for the high bounce, the height has to be greater than 55, and the height also has to be less than 72. All right, so for the Climathon, I'm going to put this inequality down here. The Climathon, it has to be less than 60. Okay, so let me take out the background. The height has to be less than 60. That's what this means here, less than 60. And 58 inches minimum, it can be 58. So it can be equal to 58. And it can also be greater than 58. So it can be equal to 58 or it can be greater than 58. All right, we have some more questions about this. Han's cousin is 55 inches tall. Han doesn't think she is tall enough to ride the high bounce, but Kieran believes she is tall enough. Do we agree with Han or Kieran? So she's 55 inches. And is she tall enough for the high bounce? Well, the high bounce, remember, this is what we were talking about earlier. The high bounce has to be between 55 and 72. So this is something that you can really, it kind of can depend. You can debate. It depends on who is probably doing the security. Because you can really make an argument either way. You can say that you have to be more than 55, or you can say that you have to be 55 or more. You can include 55. So I tend to think that you would include 55, but some people would say that you would not. So there isn't a clear answer to that question. It really depends on how it is interpreted by whoever is running the entry point. Number 3, Priya can ride the Climathon, but she cannot ride the high bounce or the twirl coaster. Which, if any, of the following could be Priya's height? So she can ride the Climathon, but not the other two. So Climathon, you have to be under 60 inches tall. So that means she is that. She's under 60 inches. But she can't ride this one, and she can't ride this one. Well, this one says 58 inches minimum. So she's under 60, but she must also be under 58. It's actually has to be less than 58. Okay, but for the high bounce, she's not allowed to ride that either. So it's between 55 and 72. So she has to be, if she's under 60, so she meets the requirements of this one, but she's not even 55. It means she has to be less than 55, right? So like 54 and below. So let's look at what the options are. The options are 59, nope. 53, yes. 56, no. So only 53 inches, that's the only one that she could be of these choices here. She could be 54 inches, but that's not a choice. Jada is 56 inches tall. Which rides can she go on? Let's see here. 56 inches is Jada. So 56 inches, well, she could do the Climathon, and she can do the high bounce. But not this one, because this one is 58 inches minimum. So she can do the Climathon and the high bounce. And for Kieran is 60 inches tall. Which rides can he go on? 60 inches tall. So between 55 and 72, yes, he can do the high bounce. Under 60 inches tall? Well, remember, he is exactly 60 inches tall, which means he's not under 60 inches tall. He cannot do the Climathon. 58 inches minimum? Well, if he's 60 inches tall, he meets that, so he can do the twirl coaster. All right, and then number 6. The inequality is H is less than 75 and H is greater than 64 represent the height restrictions in inches of another ride. Write 3 values that are solutions to both of these inequalities. Well, okay, so there's going to be more than 3 that are solutions. But let me give you the idea here. If it has to be less than 75, but it also has to be greater than 64, then those are the numbers that we're limited to. So let's think of something, first of all, that's greater than 64. Well, greater than 64, 65 is. Now, does 65, is it also less than 75? Yes. Okay, and 66, yep, that's going to work as well. And I can keep going all the way up, okay, to 74. So anything between those we can choose. But if it was 75, then that would be too much because it has to be less than 75. So those are our choices for that one.